So ladies and gentlemen, we shall now be moving on to panel discussion 3. We have a session where the topic is leveraging the power of technology in the digital era. So the discussion will delve into how technological advancements are transforming the marketing landscape and to explore various technologies that are driving innovation in marketing, such as artificial intelligence, virtual reality, augmented reality, data analytics and automation, and a lot more. It will also address the challenges marketers face in integrating these technologies and how they can effectively harness their power to create more personalized, efficient, and impactful marketing strategies. We will be inviting our expert panel members who are from our industry and they have fantastic knowledge, fantastic experience that they will be sharing over here on this platform. All right, ladies and gentlemen, may I request you all to please join me in welcoming our panel members. Please welcome Nilima Bura, Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer, Luminous Power Technologies. A very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Welcoming our next panel member, Rajat Ojha, CEO, Gamitronics. Ma'am, please take a seat. A very warm welcome to you, sir. Welcoming Anjali Dutta, Digital Transformation and Brand Ops Lead, Tech Mahindra. Very warm welcome to you, ma'am. Welcoming our next panel member, Akash Shukla, Director of Products, Housing.com. And to moderate this session, may I call our session chair, Kanika Mittal, Country Manager, Taboola. Very warm welcome to you. Ladies and gentlemen, may I request you all to please put your hands together and welcome our panel members on stage. The topic of discussion now is going to be leveraging the power of technology in the digital era. And our session chair is Ms. Kanika Mittal. Over to you, ma'am. Thank you.
Good afternoon and a very, very warm welcome to our panel, which is all about leveraging the power of technology in digital and marketing. We have a very esteemed panel here today, and I had the good fortune of spending some time with them before coming on the stage. And my first realization was that, this topic doesn't do justice to their thoughts, to their vision, and their strategic thinking. So I thought, let's flip the topic a little bit. I'm sure you've already heard a lot on technology, a lot on AI, and a lot on digital. So we will come to that. But before we do that, I want to take a step back and also look at who really is leveraging this power, who really is the decision maker behind using technology, AI, etc., to enhance the power of digital marketing. It's human beings and fabulous professionals like yourselves and the wonderful panelists we have on stage. And I think all human beings essentially come from a place of realism or reality, and their real persona exists here in the virtual world, at least for now, before we transfer our consciousness through AI and start living a virtual life. We are, at the end of the day, a byproduct of our reality. So before we get into the artificial side of things, which is helping us better our marketing, etc., I want to circle back to the reality of things and the humans that marketers are, all of us in the room here today. On that note, I think there are 2-3 challenges that are facing us today when it comes to being real marketers. And one of them is this whole culture of being woke, the cancel culture, the whole ideology behind supporting a diversity initiative only because you think it is cool or you want to feel like you belong, but you may not truly be representing what you're really talking about. So I want to first go around the room and ask our esteemed panel that when reality hits home, how do they handle trends like this woke culture, cancel culture, etc., and what's their take on making the world a better place through their leadership positions? So Nilima, maybe we start with you.
There are a lot of things around it. It's the fundamental of, I would say, at work or in market or for marketing who actually represents companies in various way in building a brand perception or building a brand narrative or building credibility for the brand and the business for customers and consumers. The biggest and most authentic or most important thing is being real. And how do you keep the conversations more real? How do you keep the content real? And I think the first step of that, I would say, what keeps me sane in this journey of brand building is knowing who the customer is and who the consumer is. That fundamental hasn't changed, whether the technology has overtaken or not, but fundamental still remains the same. So knowing who is the audience and who is the target group, which we used to say traditionally, still remains relevant. And what are the needs, what is the understanding of that becomes the fundamental. I do also handle strategy and transformation of the organization. It also becomes very critical to sometimes, most of the time, overlay what's the objective. So knowing who the audience is, what do they need, and understand that better, and then overlay it with what's the objective. I think these three fundamental questions of what and why always keeps you sane and real in building brands and business.
Amazing. And Rajat, what is your take? What is the most complex problem that you have come across, which, in the real world?
I'll just give you an anecdote, very recent actually. So I was in a round table where I was sitting with some of the Bollywood stars, and one of the biggest Bollywood stars told us that we will produce whatever we want. Janta will decide whether they want to consume or not. Once they stop consuming, we'll stop making. Absolutely wrong. So my take, and I'm an interactive storyteller. I'm a metaverse operator and video game company. So so this is like a real hard-hitting thing for me, because in our stories we let people do things and we think that this is going to impact their rest of their lives. People keep on saying it makes you violent and all those kind of things. So I cannot be the guy making any decision in my games or letting people take any decisions in my game, what they can actually replicate in the world, because people are of all type. We don't understand, right? While we are the content creator, and there's something called responsible, content creation. And I come from that school where I would be very, very responsible in what I create and how if this is a medium, right? I want to give the best out of this medium, So and especially kids play, what if they, consume this kind of content and where they can do these offensive stuff like Grand Theft Auto, GTA, most of the people talk about, rampant use of cocaine, drugs, stealing cars and stuff. My kid was never allowed to play that game till he turned 18, even though I had access to all the games in my house. So the thing is that it's always the same thing, that I didn't want him to do certain things. And again, if I allow people, so I use this medium to create sustainability island where people can actually, kids, engage and do all the 17 SDGs and how to achieve that. Because if they grow up with that, they can eventually probably understand what has been sowed in our mind right now. They can understand and they can grow with this. So similar kind of things we're trying to teach and educate kids in so many different ways. And that's why I think Metaverse is a very, very powerful medium, because nothing is happening to that character, what happens in the movies. It's actually you are doing. If the world changes around you, you are the one who did it. So we make you the hero. And in that process, I think there is hell lot of responsibility on our shoulders.
Thanks, Rajat, for that. So I will try to answer this question to two parts. One as a professional leader and secondly as a parent. So I think as a professional leader, through our products, we are trying to serve realism and aspirations, right? And to be truly do justice to it, you have to realize that you can't just jazz it, because that would be a very short-term approach. For example, when GenAI came into picture, I think the first reaction of everyone was, hey, we have a very fancy tool, just figure it out how to use it, right? But when we looked at its problem, we said that, hey, do we have a problem where this tool will become handy? So we are still viewing that as from a perspective of a tool rather than viewing as a solution which we can throw at any problem. So for us, I think as Nilima also talked about, why and why will remain always relevant before any tool. So that is what will keep me, my team and my organization sane. Now, as a parent, when I look at my child growing up, I think the fear that I have with these tools becoming very handy, right? She might become very productive, but will it hurt her creativity in the longer run? So I think consciously we are trying to set some rules where we are exposing her to these tools at the right time. And also sitting with her to understand how she's using those tools and try to educate her so that she also becomes more mature over time. Yeah, so I think this is something which is very new for anyone who is trying their hands at it. And for now, as a duty, as a professional leader, as a parent, it is that we make sure that our teams and our child use it judiciously so that they also understand the risk of it.
Very nice. So thank you so much. This is a very interesting topic. To start with, I'm going to ask one simple question. How many of us remember numbers of our friends, phone numbers of our friends? How many of us? Please raise hands. I don't remember anything. I just remember my mother's number and that's it. And my own number, by the way. So how many of us remember, right? I don't think anyone, right? Yeah. Okay, ma'am, thank you. Again, that goes back, right? So let us touch base to something very, very, very important for us to understand. Are we really practicing our, brain enough, right? Maybe not, because now we are talking about we're a world which is super, super fast, right? I need things which are just a click away. I need answers just now. And it's actually making me very, very impatient, right? And I'm getting very, I need everything fast, right? So that is also resulting into a lot of mental instability and whatnot. Now, going back, why that is happening? Because technology has evolved really to a greater extent. And a lot of things are so easily available that we don't have to practice our brain cells any further. Now, that's where ethic comes in. Are we as a technology people figuring out, are we ethical in anything and everything that we are doing? Are we actually putting ethics in terms of our innovation? Are we really understanding who are we really doing this for? The humans at the end of the day. The humans are humans and we care for humanity and they are not numbers, right? So now keeping that in consideration, we also have to see how are we evolving and how are we using this smart edge new technology like metaverse, our friends were talking about, AI, right? And all of these interesting things. Yes, in the world that we all play in, we can actually make a phone call to our family members, see them very quickly, right? And remember older times, right? We used to really wait for our family members to come and visit us at home or our friend to call us and we have to really go to, few distance and then maybe get a, that traditional old phone, right? To make phone calls. That is no more required. We can actually see them through a meta environment, right? Feel them and then engage with them. As long as we are using all of this technology for a wiser purposes, it is absolutely good. So we need to understand, are we understanding the end customer needs and want? Are we understanding humans as a whole? Their behavior, their patterns, right? Their ask of tomorrow. And all our solutions are designed to make them happy at the end of the day, right? With that, I'll pass it back to you.
Thank you. I think we had such interesting and such diverse perspectives in this room. And what I'm hearing you all say is that ultimately you need to understand your customer. You need to be real in what you offer the customer. Jazzying it up or making it fancy is a very short-term solution. And more importantly, you need to use technology in the right way for all the good things and not overuse it to the extent that you're probably creating a very artificial environment for your end customer. Which brings me back to the topic, which is technology, which is in today's world. Technology in digital could mean blockchain, it could mean metaverse, like you said, it could mean artificial intelligence, even crypto. We've had cases and examples of marketers do interesting things with the domain of crypto. So I just want to go around, with our panelists and ask that, AI we understand, like it's definitely a big trend and a buzzword today. But outside of AI, which technology are you personally a fan of and that you would propagate to the room?
AI is fascinating, and it's very difficult to say I don't like it or I don't love it. I love it because it has definitely helped ease out a lot of things which we do today. But the other thing which I really liked a lot is, I would say, TikTok personally. And I wanted to be real, so I'm just being real. But what I definitely, from the work point of view, it was very fascinating to see a simple TikTok, how for business it can create impact, and it did create impact. Gamification was a personal interest which got converted into the business interest, because when you saw complex messages being delivered so easily, interactively, and engaging way, and you know how much time a customer is able to spend on a content was always a challenge on digital. One of the most cluttered medium to do advertising or any kind of communication. But then gamification made it a lot more easier to hold the interest and engage with them, and that to teach them or leave a message what you wanted to leave to them. So to me, that was one of my fascinating points beyond AI.
Okay, so that's one point for gamification and social media. Rajat, what about you?
User generated content. So why TikTok is big? So actually you covered the answer. So UGC and today whatever is in 2D is going to get into 3D very soon, and it's happening. If you are tracking the world of like the Western world right now, Roblox, 89 million daily active users, consumption hours far beyond any OTT out there. I think that's a big trend. We are doing pretty much the same thing with Party Night in India with about 750 brands, 130 million users with us. And, but of course, we are nowhere close to Roblox. That's why we service Roblox also. But what Roblox and TikTok and Insta Reels, all these are user-generated content where people are, they build the ecosystem, and everything else, will just plug into that, be it AI, be it conversational part, be it image recognition, filters, all those things are going to get all the avatarifying, like a lot of avatar solutions are there. They're all going to get fit into the UGC segment, which is using AI to the core anyways, and no, a UGC company can survive without AI, like all the, so I think, under the hood, AI is constantly, thumping the cylinders there, but at the same time, I think, and that's why, so I like the metaverse angle a lot because I'm the creator, and, but again, user-generated content to just, extend it.
So personally, I'm a big fan of conversational technology, right? So we've seen the world of where emails were being sent, then SMS came into picture, and then boom, WhatsApp came into picture, right? And today, probably both business-wise and personally, we are seeing WhatsApp performing much better than other things. In future, we expect that hologram will come into picture, maybe metaverse will also come into picture. So personally for me, that's a theme that I follow along, that how will human beings communicate better and better over time. So that's the one technology that I am personally very super interested into. The second is 3D printing, which Rajat also touched upon. And I think 3D printing personally has super advantage in terms of education, right? Because if 3D printers really become cheap over time, you can create things, you can create models over time which you can show to children, right? And imagine every village having a 3D printer where most of the teaching is done by showing people that this is how a bridge looks like, this is how a computer looks like.
Yeah, amazing. Now, so user-generated content and 3D printing, you said, okay? We have a good list going.
Yeah, so again, I am sharing my favorites here as well, right? So off lately, right, the AI and the metaverse has actually become my favorite, and I'll tell you why. because I've been using AI and all of these chat GPT tools and etc. to become my personal teacher, right? I don't want to now Google it and then find questions, answers to my questions. I better use these tools to give me the answers, right? So hence, one-on-one relationship got developed with these kind of tools. It seems like they get you and they're giving the answers that you want. That's one. Second, why, AI and then moving into AR, VR and the metaverse overall is getting into my favorite list, because I can be very quick and my speed to market is better. I can also go to places and see places that I could not actually physically go, right? So I can envision and feel things without even actually touching them. So that is a very beautiful world that we are getting into. But again, as I mentioned earlier as well, right, there's a thin line between the real and the fictitious world. So we need to ensure though that, that line is never crossed. As long as we don't cross it, I think we will continue to celebrate and enjoy these kind of things, right?
Okay, so we have quite a few votes for AI actually, and metaverse as well. So I think the room has a sense of what your favorite marketers are using when it comes to technology in their marketing initiatives. I just want to challenge the notion on social a little bit, because what I'm also hearing is that there is a declining trust on social media. This could be driven in part because of fake content. It could be driven in part due to influencers not posting the right kind of content as well. While we have many who are extremely educational, funny, etc., but there are many others who are fraudulent as well. So there is this whole fear and there is this whole lack of trust which is beginning to develop. And it could possibly reach a tipping point, and then maybe something else will become the big trend. So just want to get your view on, when you see this declining trust on social, how do you as marketers plan for it in your strategy?
See, I'll say something on data or any kind of information. Personally, since I handle strategy for organizations where you have to build a lot of documents, you have to also create a lot of programs, engagements, where you have larger shareholders, stakeholders, investors involved onto it. Any data, any information, while you have one source, it's always important to validate the source. So that's number one. Do your research. Whether it's through Gemini or ChatGPT-4, I have instances where there are information which comes suddenly at one take. So earlier when I used to create reports or competitive analysis, it used to take 2 to 3 weeks to read all company financials, investments, what's in news, what's the data around it, look at the market research, and then finally come up with a report. Thanks to AI, today you talk about one company and then full information comes to you through Gemini or whatever source you're using. But you still need to go back and validate the data source, the information, the numbers, because it's calibration. It's ultimately calibrating various sources of information and coming together as a compilation. Which time frame, which time source, what context, in which context is the discussion becomes extremely important. So I would say that it's important, and go back to the basics and fundamentals of validating the source of information. Look into the pros and cons, there are multiple. Good thing is, there are multiple views of the same data. There are different perspectives of the same data. But read those perspectives, don't follow it blindly. Build your own perspective with your own research. And that's the way I would say. So trend is declining when you look at in one perspective. But then the trend is rising when you look at digital adoption or social media adoption towards verifying more information or finding a content, finding a product. It's a rising trend, right?
Yeah, that's a very valid point. In fact, I represent Taboola, and we are a content recommendation engine that powers multiple publishing platforms, multiple media houses. And one of the things that we hear the most as feedback is that customers tend to still trust news. And the moment they find it on an independent platform like Times of India, Hindustan Times, NDTV, India Today, etc., there is a tendency to trust that, and therefore there's an opportunity there for brands to then enter that space in a more creative way and try to attract the customer and connect with the customer in an environment that he fully trusts. So I would love to understand from this group, how do you leverage the power of news, the power of content to accelerate that trusting relationship with your customers?
So first of all, whenever trend declines, two things happen usually. Either trend is dead because it was not worth it, or trend actually converts into use cases. Which happened in many cases, like metaverse, which is like touted as dead by many, is like every single day things are being built. Now, how do we actually trust, create the trust factor especially? So we never use open AI directly, even though there's an AI part, which is a very, very strong part in our metaverse also. And at the same time, Gemini to some extent, but largely OpenAI. We never use OpenAI as OpenAI or a ChatGPT. We have created our own, vertical version of that, which we call Brahmand. And Brahmand has three things: in processing, pre-processing, in processing, and out processing. We segmentize the data. So pre-processing is we take, it's like, again, if somebody is from the healthcare, you understand HIPAA compliances, ISO compliances. It's a checklist of items, So what are the things we don't want to narrate? What are the things we want to probably, be very, very cautious about? It can be gender biases, it can be about the racial equality, and all those kind of things. So in our pre-processing, we have a huge checklist of items which we actually run any chat GPT which is coming from. So we take a lot of data, we collect, we do a lot of surveys and stuff, and we push that in the pre-processing part of the entire chat GPT thing which is coming. And in processing is the human involvement. We call it HILT, the world calls it HILT, where human is involved, monitoring most of the transactions which are happening at the AI layer, at the back end, and moderating it, checking it, and administrating whatever things are right. And the post-processing is going back and seeing if we did something wrong, how we can improve some things and stuff. And these things are told and shown constantly to our users, and that's one of the reason in like less than 1.5 year, we are 130 million people, especially larger audience, is the kids, from 12 to 25 years age group, and the brands trust us. But the thing is that this has been, and this entire survey, and it's constantly building exercise, because you cannot just use ChatGPT or even conversational. So my problem with Alexa was always like, hey, what if I ask about, probably a 4-year-old kid just ask about something which we don't want them to ask about? Is there a filter? And we went ahead and started creating something, but Alexa came with the Alexa Kit version by then. But now it's the same thing. You need to build, and you need to showcase, and you need to put it in front, and you need to constantly use it, because at the end of the day, you are not the AI creator. I cannot wear that gown and say that, hey, I'm the AI. I'm just an AI user. What I did, I optimized it so my audience doesn't face anything, or we don't deliver something which we don't want to deliver to them.
Absolutely. If I may just build on that, I think what you're essentially talking about is consistency plays a huge role, whether it is in training models, whether it is in getting results out of them. In fact, at Taboola, we say artificial intelligence is actually average intelligence, because a lot of it is coming from what is pre-trained, which has been generated in the past. So it's average. It doesn't have the spark of creativity, a vision, a future, etc., etc. So it's on us as humans to kind of then leverage this artificial and average intelligence and use it to enhance the output of our work. So from Anjali and you, what I would really like to understand is, you represent two very different sectors. Housing, of course, being one, tech being another. So when you look at use cases of AI and you want to power your sectors in a better way, like if we just take a step back from your respective organizations and look at it sectorally, what are the use cases that you see can really magnify the results?
Got it. So I'll probably elaborate on the housing sector, right? So it's
It's a decision that takes a lot of time, takes also a lot of money for you to make that transaction, and it has a lot of emotional angle involved, right? So for a sector that addresses this kind of a product, it is super important that you stay with the consumer end to end, because imagine when you start your house journey, you would have probably partial amount of money to pay for that house, right? And over time, whatever you are aspiring for will get a reality check. So for example, if you go in a market, you have some amount of money and you thought that I will get this kind of a house and this price. When you actually go into market, you realize that, hey, this is not the actual reality. Probably you will need more money or you will have to change your locations, right? So you basically goes to a cycle where you have high motivation, then it dips, and then something has to happen to bring it high again, right? So for this kind of a sector, it's super important that you stay in constant touch with the consumers. And that essentially goes that both the on-platform and the off-platform engines have to work in tandem. So for example, someone who has come to housing, right, would have X number of queries depending on their search journey they are in, right? Now, over time, most of the web platform has been letting users to figure it out that, hey, I have created a super easy flow, but you go and figure it out, right? But with AI coming into picture, chatbots coming into picture, it is becoming super easy to understand where is the user getting stuck and help them out. So that is something which you can do more like an assisted search to the user when they are on the platform.
Brilliant.
And then this user also goes out of the platform. So there you have to converse with the user, and when you are conversing with the user, you also want that, hey, it is not a broadcast. You want them to reply back to you. So which takes it into two aspects. One is what kind of a tools that you can leverage to converse. Secondly, what is the content that you would be sharing to the user. And here you would have to get slightly dispassionate, because I've talked to a lot of leaders. They get super passionate that, hey, if I use off platform too much, people might not come onto my platform and that might dilute my brand. I personally believe it is the other way around, right? Because you are there to serve users' need. If you serve it well, your brand automatically goes on top of their mind, right? Not the other way around, which means you can freely use the off-platform tools to help them with whatever information they need at that moment in time, and have small journeys which can bring them back to your platform if they need, right? Don't push it, right? So I think the broad understanding for us is that you have to become slightly dispassionate with respect to the platform that you represent and become more truer to the need that you represent for the user.
Fantastic. Very helpful.
Cool. So since I represent the IT industry, so we cut across all industries, right? And we design and create solutions for almost every industry that we talk about, right? So I'll go back to, while I explain how it's going to be changing the world that we play in, this predominantly my industry plays in, I want to go back to the question that you asked a little earlier, right? How are we using the social media and all that kind of stuff, right? I think the most important aspect, no matter for which industry you're designing a solution or you're building a solution, you need to understand how much research, as my friends have been saying, you have done on that subject. Did you understood the problems in hand? Did you understood what the needs and wants of future would be? And are you then designing your authentic solution there? Now, keeping that in mind, today what happens because of all of, we use AI, right? And we tell people to use it as well, get more advanced about it. But AI is again artificial intelligence. I am saying we need to have our own intelligence also in there, right? To validate what data I'm getting, is that a logical data? How best I can use data? Because a lot of data sometimes is actually a junk data, right? You need to figure out the authentic data and resample it so that you have the right material to, action upon. Now, having said that, you use that data to design a content. So your content should not be generated out of these tools, right? Because what happens, the content generated out of these tools are, in most of the cases, are template content. That's where we start losing our customers. That's where we start losing the emotional connect that we build with the end customers, right? So while all of these tools need to be used and understood very nicely, we need to make them smarter to understand something which is very important called, empathy. Because empathy is something that you have to put into every design and every stuff that you do, every solution that you ideate upon. Now, asking few people the other day, I may want to ask people, here as well, how many of you had a dinner or a lunch with your family members without checking your phone or TV? Okay, we have only one. Again repeating, how many of us had food, maybe lunch or a dinner, with our family members without a television and a phone? Okay, fantastic. We have 6 people, right? Out of 100 plus, right? Now, what does that tells us? It tells us we are overly getting engineered, right? We are losing the human centricity. We are using the human aspect because we are not observing people around us. If you are not observing the people around us, what you want to do is to automate things super fast and then rely on templatization, which gives us immediate gratification. We think it is giving us, but predominantly it is not. And that is why we have a lot of content sitting on social media, which is absolutely of not great use, right? So if you start understanding humans and human behaviors and their needs and wants, and sometime wake up in the morning and figure out how the sunrise is, and not use ChatGPT to tell you how a sunrise looks like, you will be very authentic with whatever you do, right? And that's how we've been telling in our IT industry, you ideate, you create, you co-create stuff, but keeping humans and needs and wants in consideration.
Super. I know we are now heading to the end of our time, and there's one very important question I really want to ask the group, and any one of you can take it. One of the things that technology is also helping to deliver in a vast and differentiated market like ours is scale. And there is a lot of growth that is coming from tier 2, tier 3, tier 4 towns. In fact, at Taboola, we have deep coverage of the vernacular ecosystem as well. And we are seeing that alongside English and Hindi, there is a lot of interesting work happening in vernacular and a lot of results being driven through the hinterland of India as well. So I'm keen to understand, how are you using tech? Or how do you suggest to the audience that tech can be used to increase scale and reach the more deeper, more differentiated aspects of our country?
So there are many tech tools available today. To create a website, just take the basic simple thing. In multi-language is not so difficult as it used to be, or multi-country languages is also not very difficult to do. Luminous as a brand, we are probably present with 95% of reach in the country. That means it goes to rural, agriculture, to urban.
Amazing.
Right? And there are many brands where it's similar would be the reach. One of the big things which we do is each and every content today is taken into multiple language through language translation tools which we have. And these are not translation tools. These are the tools actually to make it in different languages. Number one. Number two, the content which I also feel is giving different face and culture and context has become easier. That's also because of the tools which we use internally, and these are our own internal developed tools as well. Conversational AI is something which we have also developed internally. It's into the learning phase, wherein buying an inverter and battery is one of the most complex, difficult choices. You need to be really an engineer to do it. But not everyone is an engineer to do it. So here is a conversational tool which is being built in different languages, wherein you put your number of rooms, number of lights, number of appliances which you want to run, and then it tells you what kind of inverter or a battery which you should be looking for, or what kind of solar solution to further save. It can also analyze your electricity bill and say where you should be consuming lesser and what kind of solution can give you better choices there. So these are some learning, but as I'm saying, while we are doing all these things with AI, it's a learning process. Even AI is learning with it, and that's the phase where we are within our organization.
Amazing. I love that example. I'm conscious of time, so I'll bring us home with our last question. And it's something that you have to answer quickly and crisply. And the question is, we have this room full of marketers, and I'm sure they're here to learn and get inspiration from you. So what would you advise them? one thing to start, one thing to stop, and one thing to do more of. Anjali, maybe we can do more of. Start, stop, and do more.
Start getting into the 3D world. Sales pitch, you know. So, and the second one was stop. Stop worrying about AI. AI is just an
Nice.
enabler, will remain and continue. And to do more of?
Do more of.
More ethical practices, sorry.
Awesome. I think the key takeaway is be sure to be ethical. Right, over to you.
Yeah. If I have to talk about what could you start doing, I would say start using ChatGPT for reviewing things which you believe could have been done better. It gives some phenomenal results. Stop doing, I think, stop using too much of data, and also go and talk to your consumers. Go and look at funnel data which give you a complete consumer journey. Last was what?
Do more of.
Do more of. So I think this is coming from my personal experience. I've worked with companies like Samsung, Flipkart, and Housing Now, and we have used a lot of tools. Ultimately, we all go back to internal customer data platform. I don't see any third party which is able to replicate that kind of an experience.
Wonderful. Anjali,
So
what
I'll
about
take
you?
it. I think start doing is the most important part is research. Do a lot of research. Talk to humans. Talk to people around. Understand industries so that you can put a right perspective. Stop doing. Please don't copy, right? And don't go temperate stuff, because more you do it, you know, one day we'll have everything saying the same thing. It won't fly. And then what was the last one?
Do more of.
Do more of, I think, do more of, you know, start experimenting and playing with things. The more you experiment and more POCs you create, I think you will have more stories to tell.
Amazing.
And be ethical, that's it.
Super. I think, Nilima, do you also want to maybe?
I would say high time, start using AI, because there's a lot of fear around it. So I would encourage everyone, start using AI. What I would say, stop being unreal in the thinking. So be in the 3D world, but it's important not to lose your connect with the real world. And I would say do more often, humanize. Humanizing is very critical while you're using AI. Meet real consumers and customers. Understand real problems and understand the consumer better, because empathy is what will keep the brand alive in the world which is getting more and more digitized. So to build the brand with empathy, keep going back to understanding more often what is the real problem and challenges of the customers and the consumers.
So Nilima, one small thing I'll just add before we just wind up, because that triggered me on something. It's all about cutting the biasness, right? So I think how we cut bias, obviously through, you know, sample data and resampling, but it's also important to have a very heterogeneous team, right? If you don't have a heterogeneous team working on things, you will never be able to cut the biasness that these machines and tools bring in. Second but last, with that I'll just close, is most important part is also to understand your own self and your employees, right? The team that you work with, the team that, you know, is designing solutions along with you. Do you understand them whole? Because they are also a very important part of the entire transformation exercise, or, you know, any change that you want to bring in. With that, I'll just conclude. Thanks.
Awesome. Thank you so very much. I hope you all enjoyed the panel. I thought it was very insightful and very diverse as well. I'll conclude this with a very quick summary and my take on start, stop, and do more. I would say start doing more of the open web. It's the future. I would say stop cut, copy, pasting, and doing the easy thing, do the hard thing instead. And I would say do more of innovation. I think you are cultures and movers and shakers of the country as marketeers, so the more you innovate, the more we all grow. Thank you so much, and wish you a wonderful afternoon and evening ahead. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much, panel members, for sharing your insights along with us. Before we all proceed for lunch, may I request you all to please be back on stage, because we have a felicitation ceremony coming up, and I would request Ms. Kanika to please do the honors. Yes, ma'am, please come. And as you would be felicitating all the speakers, I would have the honor to felicitate you at the end. Ma'am, please hand it over to Ms. Kanika Mittal. So we felicitating our speakers, Nilima Bura, Chief Strategy and Transformation Officer, Luminous Power Technologies. Felicitating our panel member, Rajat Ojha, CEO, Gamitronics. Felicitating our next panel member, Anjali Dutta, Digital Transformation and Brand Ops Lead, Tech Mahindra. I would request all the panel members to please stay back because we will be taking a group photo op. Felicitating our next panel member, Akash Shukla, Director of Products, Housing.com. Once again, a big thank you to all our panel members. We shall now be felicitating our session chair, Kanika Mittal, Country Manager, Taboola. So this panel had a fantastic discussion on the topic of leveraging the power of technology in the digital era. I hope you all had a great time.